Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. This is the space where we bring you Black America's headline news, views, and opinions. I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi.
Peace and love. I'm Nielle, and Brooke is out today.
And on today's report, President Biden details a winter plan to combat COVID-19. The first case of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 has also been detected in Los Angeles County. And Serena Williams has a children's book, and we will give you more details.
Yes, we will. And co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, Derrica Wilson, and Derek Butler, who is featured in the HBO Black and Missing documentary series, is here to talk the importance of advocating for Black and missing persons.
All right, soulmates, we have that and so much more. You know why? Because it's our voice and it's our truth. So let's talk about it.
Good evening, soulmates. President Biden further detailed his winter plan to combat COVID-19 within the United States in an op-ed on Thursday, reiterating his vow that there would not be shutdowns or lockdowns. Biden wrote in his op-ed published in USA Today, "We're going to fight COVID-19 not with shutdown or lockdowns, but with more widespread vaccinations, boosters, testing, and more." Biden's plan largely calls for a doubling down on getting the COVID-19 vaccine and booster shots for Americans who are eligible. He said the nationwide booster campaign will be expanded to incorporate more walk-in appointments, longer hours, and weekends. So when we first heard about the new variant, we knew at some point it was going to come into the United States. We know it's in 5 states, I believe, at this point. There's one particular case in Minneapolis they were talking about where the person had both vaccination shots and a booster shot. But we want to say we're thankful that the conditions are mild, you know what I'm saying? So that's a good thing. But I love his plan. It's all about getting through the holidays in the winter. I'm glad he didn't mention about lockdowns and shutdowns, because I just feel like the Republicans would have just ran with that, been like, see, here we go again, right?
Yeah.
Because they're already giving pushback. But it's all about saying, how can we stay ahead of the pandemic? And I think he's doing the right thing.
I do too, Romeo. I think he's doing the right thing, doing a great job. Well, you know what? Great might be taking it too far, because there are some things, of course, that we still would like to see from Joe Biden. But I like how he is toting the line and trying to keep everybody happy. And, you know, like you said, going into the holidays, we're going to need our president that trusts the science right now.
Look, I am petrified at what's happening right now. I feel like we are at the start of a pandemic all over again.
You do.
I'm glad that we have great leadership that can help guide us through this process a little bit better. But if we recall how this pandemic first started, this is how it happened. And when we look at how things are just, happening, I'm not, sure that we might not have to have another shutdown if the trend keeps happening the way it is.
And I hope that we don't, but I will say this, the fact that we do have a lot of Americans that are vaccinated, this helps the situation out. Imagine if we had no vaccination at all. This would be a major problem.
Yeah.
So that's what gives me hope, and hopefully people will look and say, you know what, I want to go get vaccinated for Christmas. That's going to be my gift to myself, to my family. Why not look at it that way? But I really like to hope that we can get through the holidays. I understand they're going to do things. We're going to have stories about traveling coming up in a minute. But it's all about how we handle and protect the American people.
Well, you know what, Neil, I just want to piggyback on, it feeling like a new pandemic. And Romeo, I'm with you too, that it does feel, you feel a little bit more hope because of 2 reasons. One, we have many more people that are, just say if we were entering a new pandemic right now, right? Going into it, we have more people vaccinated, like you said. We already have people that are wearing masks. And also the president, let's look at the difference in the president. I mean, President Trump really, really, really did us badly. And so like going back to Joe Biden, at least having a plan, like you said, just makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are cautiously optimistic, but this next story is why I'm petrified. The U.S. detected the nation's first case of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus in California. Now, the Centers for Disease Control reported this earlier this week. The individual is a fully vaccinated San Francisco resident who returned from South Africa on November 22nd, the CDC said. The person had mild symptoms, which are improving, and is self-quarantining. All close contacts have been they have tested negative as well. Now, the first case of the Omicron variant for COVID-19 has also been detected in Los Angeles County, right here, health officials said yesterday. Now, the fully vaccinated adult came back to LA County after traveling to South Africa via London, according to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, that where the person was infected. And to you guys' point, I think the vaccination will help curb it. But the reality is, I've said it before, that we're going to have to learn how to live with COVID-19. But if it continues to spread, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem with businesses, small businesses, and how they deal with interaction if people don't adhere to the rules. And I think that's the biggest problem with our nation, is that there's a huge group of people, number one, who don't want to get vaccinated, and number two, they just don't want to abide by the rules. And as long as there's a group of people out there that do not want to abide by the rules, this is going to be a pandemic.
You know, definitely a group of people that don't want to abide by the rules. Marjorie Taylor Greene, very controversial. She put online just a moment ago, look at the insanity already over the Omicron variant and completely downplaying it. And, you know, Neil, I see what you're saying, because we do have a certain group of people that are going to downplay this altogether. But there are certain people, certain doctors that are saying, hey, this Omicron variant is actually disproportionately affecting large numbers of children under the age of 5. And so that is something to take very serious right now. No matter if there are mild cases of Omicron, no matter if you don't see it, you know, black people or whatever, doesn't matter which group is being affected. At the end of the day, this needs to be taken serious.
And you know what, when you talk about groups being affected, the black community has been affected so much by this pandemic. And that's why we have to look out for each other and have to push the narrative like, look, let's get vaccinated. Perfect example. There's a Republican representative in Kansas. There's a small town in Kansas where there's, I think, like 25 cases, where in San Francisco there's only 45 cases of just COVID-19. That alone tells you how they're not protecting, right? Because those people are saying is correct. I'm not going to get vaccinated. I don't want to wear a mask. And as a result, in a small city, the rating and the number is higher than San Francisco. We already know the population of San Francisco, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, yes, the numbers are going to rise. That's inevitable. That's going to happen. The holiday travel may make it spike just a little bit, but we have to keep saying we're going to do the right thing for ourselves and for our families.
And we have to remember that there were several cases reported in New York City as well. And we're the two California, New York, largest metropolitan cities in the nation. And we're leading this new variant. And so, it's scary. And I can't say stress enough. We should be cautiously optimistic, but it's starting to look like we were back where we were before, just with different leadership, which might make the difference.
Yeah, and we had Governor Gavin Newsom really take the reins, so hopefully we'll see some comments from him in the coming days as well. A total of 1,493 people experiencing homelessness died on the streets of Los Angeles during the pandemic, according to a new report. Researchers from the University of California, Los Angeles, along with a coalition of researchers focused on homelessness, studied data from the LA County coroner's records, and they found that nearly 1,500 people died on the city streets between March 2020 and July of this year. Those who died were most likely people experiencing homelessness, according to the report. Now, the most common cause of death was accidental overdose. That story is so much to unpack, and we don't have nearly enough time. But one thing that really bothers me is the homelessness crisis in Los Angeles. I'm from Chicago. That wasn't something that we saw on the streets. You maybe would see some people homeless downtown, Chicago, sprinkled around. But I even live in the valley, and there are just it's homelessness everywhere. And so it's just something that I wish there was more to be done about the homeless crisis in Los Angeles. Also, accidental overdose. It's a lot to all. I don't even know where to start with the story. It's just so much.
It really is. And before the pandemic really hit, let's go back to January of 2020. Just across America alone, we're talking over 580,000 homeless people. So not just in Los Angeles, in the United States, 70% were single people. Other percentage, the 30%, were families. So you think about that. Now we have apartments. The amount for apartments month to month is so high now. The demand for homes where the houses are high. This pandemic is going to force more people to unfortunately be homeless. So how do we get ahead of that? How do we fix that and help those, especially in this city? So soulmates, if you haven't been in Los Angeles or if you don't live in Los Angeles, almost at every exit off certain freeways in downtown LA, there are camps set up.
Yeah. But that's
the reality is we make up less than 10% of the population here in Los Angeles County, but we make up over 40% of the homeless population, number one. Number two, the state of California is in a multi-million-dollar surplus. And it's mind-baffling how, leaders in this state can boast about being in a surplus, but we have probably one of the most, if not the most, worst homeless unhoused crisis in this nation. So I don't think it's a matter of if we don't have the resources to fix it. It has to do more with lawmakers making and finding a way to fix it, because the money is on the table. It's there. We're in a surplus. We've been in a surplus since Jerry Brown left office. The money is there.
Yeah.
I just wish lawmakers would be more intentional about when they make these bills up on Capitol Hill in the state of Sacramento, that they find a way to really help curb our homeless crisis, because I believe it can be done.
Nia, oh my gosh, I just have to say something else, because you touched a nerve that was so great, that the money is there. The money is absolutely there. The money has always been there. And that's why when there was a big conversation about should there be a moratorium or should money, I've always said people need money. Like Romeo, like you said, the price rent is going up. So people need money. A moratorium, letting somebody stay somewhere, is great. But at the end of the day, money is going to heal so many problems.
And then how do we keep them in a situation so they don't fall back into homelessness? At the end of the day, you have families sitting at home right now saying, do I pay bills? Do I put food on the table? What about gifts for my kids? You know what? I got to take care of rent to make sure we have our lights, our gas, and we have a roof over our head. There's a lot of decisions that families have to make right now that's going to be very, very hard. And that takes a mental strength on it. It really hurts them mentally, too, as well. So prayers going out to all the families out there, and we'll keep you posted on this story.
And on a lighter note, Kanye West said that he could help fix the homeless crisis here in the state of California. So at this point, if the lawmakers can't get it done, maybe we should try Kanye.
Exactly.
Let's bring Ye to the table and get it done.
He will get it done.
All right, the U.S. is moving to require that all air travelers entering the country show a negative COVID-19 test performed within 1 day of departure in response to concerns about a new coronavirus variant, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said this week. Currently, vaccinated international air travelers can present a negative test result obtained within 3 days from their point of departure. Nearly all foreign nationals must be vaccinated to enter the United States. Unvaccinated travelers currently must get a negative COVID-19 test within 1 day of arrival. The new one-day testing requirement would apply equally to U.S. citizens as well as foreign nationals, according to Reuters. This is so necessary. You think about the people that travel in and out of this country, somewhere between 80,000 and up a day that fly into the United States. How do we maintain that? How do we try to make this thing work where we just say, hey, we don't want you coming to our country at all? We don't really want that, especially this time of the year, but we have to make sure we keep control of this new variant.
This is new. I just came back from Costa Rica just a week ago, and it was 3 days. You had to have a COVID-19 negative test within 3 days in order to enter back into the state. So when I saw this, I was like, whoa. I mean, but honestly, it's pretty easy. You can get a COVID, if you're out of the country, plan on going out of the country, you can get a COVID-19 test at the airport, or they can come to your hotel. But this is new because it was only 3 days, literally just a week ago.
Yeah.
But this is why we could be cautiously optimistic, because look at the difference that leadership makes. Think about when COVID-19 first hit. When Trump was in office, we know that he didn't even let the American people know what was going on. So at least the Biden administration is taking the proper steps to, be proactive instead of being reactive, because when you're reactive, that means the problem is already out of control. So I do applaud the Biden administration, but nothing is better than every individual being responsible for themselves, their family, their neighbors, their co-workers, and their community. And that is how we are going to curb the coronavirus pandemic.
Now, there was some conversation. I want to ask you guys how you feel about this. They were thinking about maybe saying, well, if you come into the country, you have to quarantine for 14 days. Is that too much? Are we past that? Or do we need to go back to that maybe at some point?
No, I think if you have to have a COVID-19 test a day before you enter the country, then you don't have to quarantine for 14 days, because you've already had a test that says you're negative. So that's what I'm saying. Being proactive instead of reactive will make all the difference in the world.
Because also what's going to detour people 14 days. I did a turnaround trip for a few days. That's going to make a lot of people say, well, I have to be somewhere, for 14 days. And in these countries, United States included, they want the travel, they want the tourism. So that's going to cut back on a lot of people wanting to travel if they do this. So I think 14 days is a lot. I think, like you said, either 1 or 3 days for a negative COVID-19 test will do the trick, and vaccinations as well.
Definitely.
All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Antonio Brown has been suspended for 3 games for violating the NFLPA COVID-19 protocols, the league announced on Thursday. Now, the league and the players' union found that Brown was among 3 other players who misrepresented their vaccination statuses. A former personnel chief of Brown said earlier this month that the wide receiver had obtained a fake COVID-19 vaccination card over the summer. Also suspended for 3 games were Buccaneers backup safety Mike Edwards and free agent wide receiver John Franklin III, whom Tampa Bay waived in August. All 3 players accepted their disciplinary actions, and they don't plan to appeal. Antonio Brown, I'm not surprised. You know, he has a colorful past when it comes to the NFL and just his decisions at large. But this goes back to what I'm saying about being your brothers and sisters' keeper and putting not only your teammates but other teams and the entire league at jeopardy just because you don't want to take the vaccination. I mean, you just can't have your cake and eat it too right now with this COVID-19 pandemic. If you don't want to be vaccinated, I mean, I'm fine with it. Just don't come outside.
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, the crazy thing about this is that he is now vaccinated, and he agreed. He did admit wrongdoing to the league. But the crazier part is that his personal chef was the person that kind of sounded the alarm on all this, his former personal chef. And so it's kind of like also like, hey, if you're going to do a crime, at least don't go around telling people that you're going to do a crime, you know, because if someone gets upset at you, they can air out everything. And so also, he's going to be able to return back to games December 26th, but he doesn't get any money for the games that he missed. And so it's like, what was the point? You're now vaccinated now. Was it worth it?
You're right, and I'm glad the fact that they are not letting him get paid for those games. This has to be a lesson learned. If you want to do the Kyrie Irving thing, that's fine. If you want to come out and say, this is not what I want to do, pay the price, you don't have to pay me, I'm going to sit out because this is how I feel about it. But don't lie. And then, you know, I have conversations with my friends saying, well, who's the ringleader in all this? You know, because all 3 was on the same team. If I had to put my money, I'd probably say AB. No disrespect.
I did too.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
I do too, yeah.
But why take that chance? Because at the end of the day, like, this is COVID-19.
That's right.
So many lives have been lost. Think about that. Think about that if you take some home to your family, to your close friends, to your team, right? Yeah. And then if it goes across your team, then it becomes a super spreader where they could not only hurt other people financially, but even health-wise. So there was a lot to this, and their luck is only just 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.